Welcome to Abridged, a podcast on everything Bracebridge, with your host, me, Mayor Rick Maloney.
Well, we have another wonderful guest on Abridged today, and someone who I've got to know fairly well over the last little while, Provincial Constable Sam Bigley. Sam, welcome to Abridged. And we have the whole Abridged today to talk about policing in Bracebridge and Muskoka, so welcome.
Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to be here.
So, Sam, first of all, I want to thank you for being part of my Mayor's Roundtable. I know that you've been an active participant in that, and that's the roundtable where we gather not-for-profits, policing, other agencies around the table and talk about how we can move that needle in making our community a little bit better and really share ideas and share resources in many respects. So I appreciate the time that you've given to that over the last little while.
I find that those opportunities are really exciting.
Yeah.
Because we have lots of ideas or lots of problems to identify, and sitting in a group like that is where we're going to find some answers.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's all about, breaking down the silos and making connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like what we were talking about earlier. It's about communication, and I'm a big fan of being able to talk to people and work through things. And I find when you get people in the same room, there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of synergy. It's kind of exciting. So I wanted to thank you for that. But that's not why we have you here. We have you here to talk about policing in Muskoka and policing more specifically in Bracebridge. Tell us a little bit about your role as the community engagement officer for the Bracebridge Detachment.
Community engagement officer is a relatively sort of revamped role within the OPP as more and more community needs are identified, and that need to have officers that are focused on that community engagement piece. We have in the past called that role many different things. Over the years, I have been a community safety officer, a school resource officer, media officer, and so they've rolled all of that into one role, and so that is the direction it is. We all have our favorites. I really favor that opportunity to connect with youth. So I'm grateful that they left that in place. But it really is that connection that so that the community can access the resources and education that we can offer, whether that be talking about what's trending with frauds, trying to make senior populations more aware of how they can be taken advantage of on these fraudsters, which are ever evolving with technology, and doing community presentations with community centers or in schools. We have, for a couple of weeks now, we have the Ride Smart program available to us, which is a bicycle program for kids. So we're going to be out in the community, and the trailer has 28 bikes on board so that even for kids who don't have a bicycle of their own, they get to ride it and get to learn some skills. So all of that is a part of the community engagement portfolio.
And so from a personal standpoint, I think you're probably one of the most recognizable officers in the detachment because of that connection you've had with the schools, the community. What's that like when when you're in uniform and when you're not in uniform and someone says, "Hey, Constable Sam, how are you?" and stuff like that. What's that like?
It is it's the best when it's a tiny voice. So when kids, whether I'm on duty or off duty, which does frequently happen, hearing the kids recognize me and be willing to come up and talk, and knowing that like bit by bit we're breaking down those barriers between the community and police is pretty rewarding. I always have time for people, unless there's something really pressing. If someone has a need or a concern that they want to discuss, I always have time for people.
Yeah.
And that's what we do this job for.
So when you talk about that, one of the good news stories over the last little while is the kind of complement of staff at the detachment, the Bracebridge Detachment. And I know that for a number of years, really under-resourced when it came to staff, and that has its own challenges in terms of response and but also in terms of staff morale and and in addition to that, your ability to, policing is much more than just being responsive. It's much more than just, getting that call over the radio. It's about being proactive. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, where we're at with the staffing complement at the detachment and what that means from a policing standpoint, from an individual
Hmm.
officer standpoint.
Hmm. There have been times, certainly not that long ago, really, when our staffing was considerably quite bare. We were down to bare minimum numbers, and I mean that happens, and we do our best. But we do have our core policing functions that we need to cover. That
Hmm.
if there is an emergency, that we have people ready to go and handle that emergency. So during times like that, things like the school officer program becomes non-essential. So everyone moves back to that frontline capacity where we are looking after our those core principles, and which we do, and we get through those times with the support of our leadership. Recently, we've seen like a real increase in numbers. In
Hmm.
fact, I haven't seen this kind of frontline support since, well, I've been doing this job for 22 years, and we're almost at the numbers we were back in 2003.
Hmm.
And what that means for the front line is that it takes the pressure off of like just going to the next call. And so when you're trying to assist a member of the public who's called for help, it removes that pressure that I have to go. And so we can give people a little bit more time. We can talk to them and offer support and really hear about what has contributed to whatever the event is. And we can do a better job, and a better job for people. So that is a relief to know that you can take that bit of extra time with people and not constantly have that ear to the radio kind of waiting that something may happen that will draw us away. Those additional resources give us an opportunity to fill the role that I am enjoying,
Hmm.
where I don't have to be so committed to what's happening like in an emergency capacity. I can take the time in community. I can bring a bunch of bikes to the kids and have all those positive interactions. We can run the MCERT program, the Mobile Crisis Response Team,
Hmm.
so that if someone is experiencing a crisis, that we have a social worker alongside a police officer that can circle back. Well, they can go in the moment. If they're unable to, they'll circle back to that person and make sure that they have the support or connections that they want or need, and help support them, and thereby reducing calls for service to the police. There is that aspect as well, and getting people properly cared for and supported. But without enough police officers, we can't support those programs. So
Yeah.
it has been really, really fantastic.
I think, I'm sure that, 22 years ago when you started this job, it was, and still is, helping people and being able to, you know, uh, be involved in, at that frontline level, but also be able to see, the follow through or have some kind of sense that there's follow through. And I'm sure when you're rushed from, one call to radio call to radio call, you'll always wonder, well, what happened with that case, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
whatever happened with that person, or whatever. You mentioned MCERT, and Constable Hems
Mm-hmm.
did a presentation to us at the Detachment Advisory Committee this past month. Very interesting. Can you share a little bit? I know that you've got some experience in that because you were in that role at one point,
Mm-hmm.
and talk about the importance of having that connection and that support to the frontline officer who may be going to that crisis call.
Mm-hmm. It is a really great program. It is a police officer paired up with, in our detachment area, it's a crisis worker from Canadian Mental Health Association. Other detachments may use different resources to go along with the police officer.
Hmm.
And the role of that officer is not intended to be like punitive.
Hmm.
So if there is some criminal consequence attached to whatever is happening, that MCERT officer is not usually involved in that. They're really genuinely just there to address the needs of the person and support. It really does provide that more of a circle of support. So all of our police officers are very caring people, and they want to see people get the help that they either want or need. And to be able to follow up with a referral to the MCERT team, to if they're not available when the event is happening, because they're not a 24/7 service right now, then they will make a referral to that program, and the MCERT team will go and follow up with that individual. And so it just feels better to
Hmm.
know that you've done your best for someone, and whatever their circumstances are, that you've been able to provide that extra layer of support, because we worry. We do.
Exactly.
We live in a relatively small community, and we worry about people. And to know that there is a need there, that um, that can be supported
Hmm.
further with the use of MCERT, it just feels better for everyone.
Well, yeah, you hit on a very valid point. Police officers are human beings, right? And police officers have feelings and emotions and responses, and you just that element is you have to kind of, in some cases, have to show that stoic kind of whatever, but being able to you know um, uh, have empathy, to be able to it's, you don't go to a call without empathy.
Hmm.
You absolutely understand the circumstances, right?
Hmm.
And you're
Hmm.
trying to provide the best assistance and support that you can.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The other sort of the one of the effects of the MCERT program that maybe was unintended was the impact that our crisis worker has on the officers.
Mm,
So because she's with us,
hmm.
um, officers can talk with her about a situation,
Hmm.
and she can provide insight and education to the officers. Like cumulatively, the influence that she has on all of the officers, just by being a part of our team and being able to talk with each individual. I went to this call and this person was saying this, and I was, here's a factor that I thought about. And so to be able to talk about that with her, it can, like, it has already shown to have a
Hmm.
positive impact on our officers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just I guess the unfortunate thing is that there, as I understand, that's a program that is not funded year over year, and you're always kind of working on what's next budget, and seeing the value, hearing about the value of that program, having that embedded as part of every detachment is absolutely something that I think it really needs to be looked at in terms of being able to support that. I think it's got such a valuable piece to it.
Well, that's a lot of folks who are in the people helping field.
Hmm.
I find there's in the background there's always someone who's working hard to find more funding just to
Hmm.
meet those needs for people. And
Hmm.
that is, I'm glad there are people who have that level of
Yeah,
investment
exactly.
and the knowledge to do that,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that can be a tough job.
yeah. Um, let's maybe turn the table a little bit, or turn the page a bit. In talking to Inspector Beebe, was very surprised on his concern about the number of impaired drivings, and despite the fact that we are, a society that looks down at impaired driving, or should be, with all the information we know about it, with the work that organizations like Mad Canada and things like that have done, and just the stigma of impaired driving. I'm really surprised that those numbers are not dropping,
Mhm.
and actually are on a kind of an upward trend. Uh, Talk a little bit about what your experience is in seeing that in the
Mhm.
field.
It has been a surprise. I'm surprised after 22 years. I'm surprised to see that our numbers are still so high. What causes me more concern is that we're finding these impaired drivers as a result of collisions, like some mishap where there's an opportunity for people to be very injured, or to die. And one thought is that, well, we have all these extra officers. We are running a lot of ride programs. People report, oh my gosh, at 11 a.m., I saw a ride program.
Hmm.
Yes, people are driving drunk at 11 a.m.
Hmm.
And we do have those extra resources. And it's like, wow, you're finding the extra impaired drivers because you have more police officers. In fact, we're still seeing those numbers high because members of the public are complaining. People are seeing something while they're driving,
Hmm.
or they're watching someone leave a group, like a party, and become concerned and call police. And that we have always valued the public as our biggest partner when it comes to identifying impaired drivers. So that's consistent. And the collisions is an increase in the collisions. So I don't think we can do a better job investigating impaired driving because we have more police officers. but I don't think we're just finding more
Hmm.
because we have more police officers.
Hmm.
They're crashing, they are impaired boating, they are out on ATV trails, and yeah, Med Canada starts providing that really amazing education when
Hmm.
kids are young.
Hmm.
They're going into elementary schools, into the grade 7 and 8 population to
Hmm.
provide education, trying to find ways to connect with people in a way that's actually going to change behavior. And yet, still, here we are.
And the consequences. Well, obviously the consequences is the potential of risk to other members of the public and to yourself and your family. But the consequences in terms of the punishment for that are pretty severe.
Mm.
And so, you know, you have roadside screening now. That's been something that's happened over the last
Mm-hmm.
little while. You have the temporary suspension of licenses, the taking a vehicle, impounding a vehicle.
Yep.
Maybe tell us a little bit about that. It's not about zero point 0.08. It's about
Mm-hmm.
even the risk below 0.08
Mm-hmm.
and what can happen
Yes.
to you.
Um, Gosh, 2019, I believe, is when the province of Ontario, at least, provided us with more authority when it comes to those roadside screening devices. We no longer, historically, we had to have a suspicion that alcohol was present in order to do that roadside demand. So, not taking someone back to the detachment, but I smell alcohol or admission of alcohol, and we could ask and we could demand that they provide a sample of their breath. The province eliminated that step. And if you are driving really anything, the police officer can demand your breath.
Hmm.
So I could run a ride program and demand that every single person provide a sample of their breath. It's not reasonable.
Hmm.
We're not doing that. Um, but they gave us more authority to manage those roadside tests. All of our officers have been trained in standard field sobriety testing.
Hmm.
So those also roadside tests, not always literally roadside, but they're the physical tests that we're able to do roadside to detect the ever growing presence of drugs in people's systems.
Hmm.
And so we have a lot of tools to identify impaired drivers. The consequence on first in the province of Ontario, if you are charged with an over 80 offense, so having more than that 0.08, it's an immediate 90-day driver's license suspension. Your vehicle is towed and impounded for 7 days, and then there's court. And you have to endure that ongoing court process, the result of which could be a very heavy fine, further like 1 or 2 year driver's license suspensions beyond that initial 90 days. Like those 90 days, that's the province coming down hard on impaired driving. We don't even have to prove it in court. The province have said, if the police have charged you, you're losing your license. We're seeing novice drivers, 18-year-old people who should have zero alcohol in their system. The law says zero
Hmm.
until you are over 21. We're finding those individuals, they're kids to me. That 18 years old, you're a kid driving impaired.
Hmm.
And the consequences are heavy. It just doesn't seem to matter when people are making the decisions
Yeah.
to get behind the wheel.
Yeah. 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 Poor decision making, obviously, and I know that there's a lot of promotion about having a plan and a
Mm.
designated driver and things like that, and it just is kind of stumble on why we've been experiencing such a uh, you know lack of a drop in a issue. I look
Mm-hmm.
back at 25 years, 30 years ago when seatbelts were mandatory. I don't think there's anyone that goes in a car now really thinking that they don't want to put a seatbelt on,
Yes.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
that was a very good success story, and I
Mm-hmm.
just the idea of impaired driving, it's just one that just baffles. But I think the message that I'm hearing from you is that the detachment, Bracebridge OPP, is going to be out there. We are doing it, at all times. There's no predictability in terms of when we're going to be doing it. We will, enforce the full extent of the law when someone is driving with alcohol or drugs in their system,
Mm-hmm.
and the repercussions for that for persons not just the fact of risking yourself and other people, but also the consequences of that from a personal standpoint about the court process, court costs, not having your driver's license. A lot of people rely on
Mm-hmm.
getting to work. It
Yes.
could threaten your employment, right?
Mm-hmm.
In many
Yes.
respects. So it's certainly a challenge, and certainly appreciate the work that our detachment is doing on that. Wanted to touch on summer in Muskoka and what that means to the detachment in terms of the town of Bracebridge. Summer in Bracebridge, it's a busy time. There's lots of events, activities, festivals. More of our seasonal residents and residents that are persons that are coming to visit our community on their summer vacation. It's very, very busy. I'm sure it's very busy in the detachment. Tell us a little bit about summer in Muskoka as a police
It
officer.
is, yes, it is very, very busy. And it's great to, I just hope that everyone is able to see Bracebridge through the eyes of those seasonal residents or travelers, because they're here for a reason, and that's because it is a fantastic place to visit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hope everyone is able to take a minute and maybe see it through those visitors' eyes for a minute and be like, wow, yeah, we're really lucky to actually live here.
It's a good point, because we've all been visitors to other communities, right? So
Mm.
we've been on the other side of it, right? So I think
Mm.
I hear what you're saying there.
Mhm. Well, we get very, you go through the day to day, and you just sometimes just need to lift your head and be like, wow, what a great place.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it is very, very busy there. But really, apart from quite a lot of traffic complaints, people get very impatient when they see so many more cars on the road,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes a little bit longer to get places. So that usually lends to some hotter tempers sometimes. It's been well managed. We've had a pretty great start to the summer, with the exception of the ongoing issue with impaireds. Um, in response to that increase in population, we have Inspector Beebe he's made a sizable commitment to our marine program.
Mm-hmm.
We know that a lot of these visitors to the area are at their cottages on water. So we want to make sure that the safety on the lakes is looked after. However, there are a growing number of boat rental places. So people will come up and think, great, I'm in Muskoka, I'm going to rent a boat and I'm going to have a super day. And the intentions are good.
Mm-hmm.
They complete the safety checklist, which is not a boater's license process, and they're off. And so that can sometimes be problematic. Probably not as much as people would blame them. And the first sort of blame when there's an incident on the lake is, well, they must have rented a boat. That's not always the case,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a higher risk. So we really want to make sure that we have enough officers out on marine patrol to make sure that all of those safety aspects are looked after. And more officers on the road. We run the safety blitzes throughout the summer, focusing on those big four factors that can lead to serious injury or death on the roads, and that's impaired driving and seatbelts, distracted driving. And so, because we have more resources, we're able to dedicate officers just for the purpose of managing traffic and providing that education. But it is very, very busy, and it is a relief to see that, because it's not so long ago that people weren't allowed to visit anywhere.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
see the increase in numbers. It's like, oh boy, it's going to be a busy day. But how lucky are we that things have rebounded
Mm-hmm.
and people are able to visit? So,
And I will compliment you and your colleagues and the detachment overall for being involved in many of our festivals and events and being present at Bracebridge 150. I'm sure there'll be officers at the Pride Fest this weekend. Events like the powwow that we had at Annie Williams Park. All those events, whether it's a street Moonlight Madness is coming up, I'm sure there'll be officers walking
yes.
through there and engaging with folks. So that all goes back to the important role that the police have in being that community contact and reaching out to the community. And it's great to see officers out and about at different events for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, the more we can embed ourselves and make those connections with the community, the safer and more well our community will be. So we want to be a real active part in that.
Yeah. Wanted to talk a bit about, we talk about marine safety, but just, safety around water. We have people come to our community and, we're surrounded by water. We have, many beaches in our town, many swimming opportunities. Just maybe share a few thoughts about water safety for folks in and around our beach areas.
hmm Generally speaking, if there's going to be an incident around the water, it is when someone is trying to enjoy the water that is a non-swimmer. So, unless it is related to the use of alcohol, which leads to some poor decision making, um, there can't be enough caution exercised around the water. Um, our marine officers have issued many, in those first couple of weekends in July, many provincial offense notices for not having life jackets on board. And we'll respond to calls where we have a capsize, say canoe or kayak, and it's a visitor
Hmm.
who doesn't have a life jacket on board or isn't wearing it. And it really, you can't take water for granted if you've never had to swim in a lake versus a pool.
Hmm.
The pool is a very controlled environment. You can
Hmm.
see the bottom.
Hmm.
There's no current. Many of our waters, many of our lakes connect with rivers. There's a current. There are some unknowns present that people don't fully appreciate. So, wearing a life jacket will save your life.
Hmm.
And if you're not a confident swimmer, there's no shame in wearing a life jacket.
Hmm.
If I'm in the water with my kids, I'm wearing a life jacket. I can
Hmm.
swim,
Hmm.
but if something unexpected happens, you need to be in a position to save yourself if you're going to be a help to others. So, life jackets continue to be an issue.
Life jackets have changed a lot too. They're almost kind of fallen into the designer kind of thing, right?
Yes.
So I'm just remembering as a kid, you had that big neck collar thing
Yes.
around you and all that stuff. But they're really kind of comfortable, almost apparel like in many respects,
hmm
and they can, obviously save your life. So really, really important. I think it's also important for parents to. If you have your children at the beach, to always be aware of where they're at and what they're doing,
hmm
you know, because things can happen just in a millisecond.
Things can change so quickly. You make a good point about the size of a life jacket and that it has to fit.
Hmm.
So we have had incidents in the past where a young life has been lost because they were wearing a life jacket but it didn't fit them.
Hmm.
And so if you're in water, it will do its job and stay at the top.
Hmm.
But if it's too big for usually for a child, they'll slip through
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and then it was a pointless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's really important that not only kids wear them, but that they fit.
Yeah. Let's. We're getting close to the end of our time. Let's talk a little bit about some exciting news that is happening. I know that you're not totally immersed in the new detachment, but Bracebridge is getting a new detachment, and that is exciting for our community, exciting for the OPP. The detachment that's on Cedar Lane right now is one of those old highway detachments that goes back to those postcards of 1950s. When you
Yes.
saw the OPP out in front with their, old Elan snowmobile and the big old cruiser and the one cherry on top in front of those old historic kind of detachments. But exciting for you as an officer and your colleagues, because the detachment we have right now is, less than perfect in terms of, supporting what you
Mhm.
need to do as an officer.
Mhm. It is, it's a very old building, and I've been working there for 22 years, so I am quite fond of it. But it has become impractical in that it doesn't meet all of our needs. As the need for more and more technology becomes apparent, that retrofitting that building has probably become quite costly, but we have to be able to maintain a certain standard, the same as other detachments. So that is a challenge, and I'm sure that's a big job. But when it comes to servicing the public, it's not a very inviting building. So when individuals come to our detachment to either report a crime or share a concern, pick up a loved one. Sometimes they're picking someone up who's been released. Walking through those doors can be, could definitely be a better and more supportive experience. So our lobby is quite small, and in that regard, I'm not fond of. So if someone comes and wants to have a discussion and we open that door,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, can I help you? And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel like a genuine offer of,
Mm-hmm.
can I help you? When
Mm-hmm.
it's in a lobby, maybe there's other people and there's no practical space to take someone just to have a conversation that's private.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been an ongoing challenge, and I look forward to that being addressed.
Yeah. So in the conversations I've had with Inspector Beebe, we're kind of looking at 2026 as perhaps the start of that project, but really looking forward to the new detachment, just for the reasons you talked about. A police station should be welcoming to the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't in the design concept in the 50s of building detachments.
No.
And the needs have changed in 60, 70 years in terms
Yes.
of what it is. So listen, we're at the end of our time. Sam, I really want to thank you for taking time to join me on Abridged. This will probably be the most watched episode, I'm guaranteeing you, because you're on it.
Right.
Has nothing to do with me, but I absolutely really appreciate it. And thank you for all the work that you do and your colleagues do to keep our community safe. And I really value our friendship and relationship, and look forward to continuing to work with you.
I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm always excited to talk about what we're doing in community.
Yeah, good.
That's a wrap on this episode of Abridged. Thanks to my guests for taking the time to join me today. This podcast was produced in the Dr. Ted Joe recording studio at the Colson Family Bracebridge Library. Thanks for listening, and be sure to join me on our next episode where we talk everything Bracebridge.